Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jonathan Fisher. As we record this episode, it's summertime, the perfect time to get sharpened up on your lead generation and sales skills. And our guest today is the perfect man to help us do just that. Steve Brown is an author. He's a trainer. He's actually also a podcast host in his own right. He's the founder of ROI Online, a HubSpot Platinum agency partner, and the very first Story Brand certified company. Steve and his team have helped hundreds of businesses of all sizes dramatically improve their online marketing and sales results. He's as I said, a speaker, author, and podcast host. And the goal of today's conversation, Steve's going to help us discover 5 to 6 ways that we can generate some quick wins and get some great new, fresh results into pipeline and into our sales. Steve, fantastic to have you on the show. Welcome today.
Jonathan, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. Well, I'd love to have you share with the audience a little bit more about your background and how you gained the insights you're going to share with us today.
So I've had an agency, ROI Online, an internet marketing agency, going on our 11th year. So we started off, I've been in HubSpot agency for 12 years. I guess you could say I was HubSpot before HubSpot was cool. But the philosophy that I grew up in this area was an inbound marketing mindset. And so, building out an agency, we've worked with hundreds of companies in various standings. And so if there's anything that you can do wrong in marketing, I've done it.
Well, I like that approach because the best lessons are the ones we often learn by making mistakes and even failing outright. Those are the lessons you don't forget very, very easily. The other thing I love about what you're saying here and what you're going to bring today, Steve, is this inbound approach. We kind of have this inbound, outbound, account based versus product led. There's all these different angles that you can bring to bear. But I think we all love inbound. We all love the idea of actually creating an opportunity for folks to find us, show an interest in what we're bringing to the marketplace, and start the conversation on that footing. As we start the conversation, I wondered, what do you think are some of the biggest changes you've seen, maybe in terms of the way the challenge has evolved, or what it looks like to succeed as a demand generation expert in today's space?
Well, what I see is that, there's so much focus on getting us to be thinking about how to please the search engine. We got to get our content that really shows and is exploit the existing algorithms. But I think the algorithm that gets most ignored or just is where the sweet spot is. It's the algorithm of the humans that are consuming our content. And, our brains, you think about your iPhone, it's version 14 or version 14 or 15 or whatever. But our brains are version 1.
Hmm.
And yet that's the version of that we're like, as marketers, we're inept at in many ways. And so creating content, creating customer experience, creating a way to connect with them as humans is where most of us are weak.
Well, I think we've all experienced it where it's maybe almost too slick and doesn't really get the job done of convincing or persuading the human who,
Mhm.
hey, that's actually, like you said, that's the algorithm we've got to hit. Well, in the spirit of that, Steve, you're a trainer at heart, and you've come prepared with some really great content for the listener, or in this case, the viewer. If you are a listener, we'll include in the show notes a link to a PDF version of today's presentation. But there's some really great content, and whether you're a highly seasoned professional in the space or possibly a little bit newer, I think you're going to get a great degree of value from some of these quick wins. And everyone loves the idea of quick wins. And this is time when folks are maybe unwinding. I took a little time off myself. We're looking over business plans, thinking about how we can kind of up our game, find an edge, because it is a little slower in the summertime typically, at least on this hemisphere. So show us how to get some quick wins, Steve. Without further ado, let's kick it off. We're going to bring in this presentation here and lead away.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of start right here. Here's the thing. I'm a Story Brand certified. Was the original agency, like you mentioned, and the thing that really resonated with us was that every business, it was amazing, all the businesses that were wanting to get connected. So if you're going to do some reading this summer or over this weekend, I really highly recommend that you read Donald Miller's book, Building a Story Brand.
Hmm.
It's an excellent, excellent way to really start thinking of your content from a different way, and not just your content, the way that you're approaching your sales conversations, the experience that you deliver. But when we think about we want qualified leads, well, those leads, in order for them to get qualified, you need to have a you need to be thinking about the internal struggle that folks are wanting to have resolved. I'm going
Mm.
to over here, right here. Here we go. So, the internal struggles, when you think about your ideal customer profile, your internal struggle really informs on that. When the folks that are considering your particular solution or wanting to see your brand as a part of their identity, they need to feel that you understand them, that you get them, and that they're safe with your brand. So we all have these brands that we resonate, whether I have Filson hats or I have Zero shoes. When you think about these folks that that create these brands, they're in the same mindset that you are, and that's why it appeals to you. And you go like, "Well, I could." Wearing barefoot shoes is a little bit weird around where I'm from. I'm in a part of Texas where most people are wearing boots, and I'm wearing barefoot shoes. But why do I allow that brand to be a part of my identity? And it's because if you if you think about where your health is, where we connect with the earth, you were born barefooted. And why do we as humans try to put this space between our barefoot and the earth? And it's the same way with our content. We're born human, but we're putting a space between our content and the folks that we're wanting to connect with. So if
Mm.
you understand their internal struggle, how it makes them feel, and uh, when they're wanting to consider your solution as resolving a thing that they're struggling with, there is an internal struggle. I feel insecure when my feet are hurting and I want to go for a long walk. And so uh, to know that my if I would just spend a little time on my feet, that then I would feel better. I'm more flexible. Then I start to appreciate them giving me some insight onto what I've been doing wrong. And
Mm.
so for them to understand my internal struggle and then to discuss the reasoning behind that helps me see that brand in my life.
That makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, the idea of having that ICP or ideal client profile is something that is talked about a lot.
Mhm.
But I know from interacting with many marketing leaders, it's not always implemented. Certainly not always implemented effectively. But having that ideal client profile, what does that mean? First of all, and is there like a process that you can kind of go through to achieve that quickly? We're looking for quick wins today.
Well, it starts with your why. Why did you start this business, or what is the reasoning behind your business, and what is the problem that you're wanting to solve? And then that person that would be a perfect fit for that. If you understand your why, it informs you to that what their aspirational identity is going to, what they're seeing their future like with your solution in their life. And so when you spend time and back into why did you start this business, why is your business exist, and why is it a better solution than other companies that provide similar solutions, when you're able to boil and go back to the why of that original reason that it all started, then you can start to think about we get caught up in all these details and our features and functions and new technologies, but yet this is going to fit in some person's life, and there's a reason why someone sat down and go, I think we can do better than the rest. there's that's where the why fits in, and it always leads to the internal struggle that you're resolving.
So the more you can get in touch with the pain that you're going to alleviate, the better. It sounds like what you're saying.
Mhm.
So from there, I mean, let's say you've got clarity on who your ideal target is based on their pain, and obviously there's got to be a good product market fit in any solutions. In this case, we're talking, pain relief fit. Um, What's the best way to segment? Marketers talk about segmentation of your audience. You can take a very digital approach to this and work from a keyword in, kind
Mhm.
of a very broad net approach. But if I know your stuff, I think you're more of an advocate for maybe a far more focused approach. Is that on point?
Yes. So you think about what's the aspirational outcome that these folks are wanting to accomplish with this solution in their life. And so you think about, well, for example, I talk to a lot of franchise brokers. Okay. And so what are they trying to do? They're trying to bring someone that's considering a change in their life. They've been successful in some position at a big company, but in the back of their mind, they're going, I wonder if I should be working on my business. I wonder if I should start a business. And yet a franchise broker is going, okay, I got all these franchises and then I got these folks that I compare, but how do you like dial in and have this solution that really resonates? And so when I
Mhm.
talk to these folks, all right, tell me, for example, we've got 20 franchises in your portfolio. Which one, if you think about the last three folks that you had great conversations, it was an easy move, transition. It was fulfilling. What was the common theme there? And so, for example, all right, so it turned out that we placed several folks into a medical related business. And so then when we think about, all right, folks that are working for a hospital, maybe a practice, and you think about those folks, they've dedicated their lives, developed a bunch of expertise, and but in the back of their mind, they're wondering if they should have been running their own thing. But it's a scary thing to start a business. How cool is it to get an introduction and go, Jonathan, you notice that you've been in this position for a while and it must be floating around in your head. I wonder if I should start my own business. I work with a lot of folks like you. Would you like to have a discussion about that? Well, then you're like understanding one of the fears that they have. When I started my business, it was really scary. I pushed back on it for a couple of years because I'm just like, that's like jumping off the ledge without a parachute. But that's going on in those folks' mind. And if you approach your messaging and your strategy with that in mind, then all of a sudden it just feels like yeah, I would have a conversation with someone that understood me as opposed to someone who goes, I've got 30 franchises and we can help you get financing today.
Hmm. Hmm. So here's a question for you. So if I'm going account based, that's typically
Mhm.
associated with more of an outbound
Mhm.
approach, right? I'm actually probably working from either LinkedIn or maybe some real world networking. If we're getting back into that now, that's a thing again. Thank goodness. But so we're going into the into the personnel roles of an enterprise account. We want to win,
Mhm.
getting those relationships going right. That's very outbound focused. How do we take an inbound sort of angle on that? How do we create or demand gen is really better language for now. How to bring that to bear when we're also going to be account based?
Yeah. So then we can show up in some of the places that they're hanging out. It may be LinkedIn posts. Then we're going to use we it would be smart to apply or augment it within outbound connections. So, like a LinkedIn request. The LinkedIn prospecting has always been like this thing that I've been in LinkedIn for a long time and I just never got used to it. But then when I started thinking about it a particular way, then I'm telling you that folks appreciate the reach out. But when you wrap it in, I'm account based. Account based is I see that these folks are around this industry or this company, then I'm sending them a request. I'm posting stuff on LinkedIn and it's showing up in their stream at some point. And so when these things are congruent and then they get a message from me and they just notice that, that so one of my campaigns that are really successful are again with these franchise brokers. So when you come in and offer them something of value that's free, your offer, then it's unique, it's original, but again, it feels right. And I just think the inbound and outbound can be very complimentary, but you're when they research you, they need to find something that is complimentary and supportive of what value you can provide them.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And a lot of our listenership is going to be B2B technical services or SaaS, other types of solutions. So they've got to go enterprise, got to go outbound to some degree. But when you have a demand gen angle, it sounds like what we're talking about is there's an effort from the marketing to, first of all, use some pretty ingenious technology inside of LinkedIn. They
Mhm.
can be super targeted. Plus, the algorithms are going to go to work to help us out as well, right? As we're outbound and we have the content there, it's available, it's on point. That's going to help connect those dots as well. So from there, what can we do to automate? Because that's the next thing too, right? We need to be able to scale
Yeah.
these efforts up. How do we go about that, Steve?
So one of the things, so we mentioned building a story brand by Donna Miller is the book that I really recommend that you folks read. But as a certified guide and the original agency, we want to work with folks that appreciate story brand. I don't want to convince them they should do it. I want to find the folks that are already convinced, but they're looking for someone to help them resolve that. And so we wrote a whole content pillar. I think I have over 100 blogs written and informed by science using Surfer SEO and Jasper and building that into a nice strategic content pillar. But then that's resting on my blog. Now, what's cool is I there is data technology available that can observe who's reading those blogs. And imagine that you're not only able to identify them, but then you can reach out to them via either LinkedIn, email, or other messaging platforms. And so it'd be like Jonathan. Just wanted to introduce myself. My agency is a story brand agency, and if a story brand is something that you have been considering or would like to apply, I'd be happy to help. We have X as far as an offer. And so now we're increasing our percentages or open rates. We're increasing our click rates or response rates, and it's becoming something that you're right in the sweet spot. And these folks, it's amazing how they respond to something that's been in the back of their mind.
Yeah, right on. And I put ahead and put the title there of the book by Donald Miller. Um, I don't think we have any financial interest in here. We're just sharing
Mhm.
a good title for folks to read. So good deal. So we want to utilize automation for speed to lead. That is a very important point. I've seen some studies that it is the faster you can reply back to someone showing interest. But see, here again, we are on we're on the inbound end of the spectrum.
Mhm.
How would this apply in terms of account-based marketing, the speed to lead? Does this mean we better just have it be on point on the social media platform, or how else would you apply that insight?
Well, when you reach these folks, they feel safe and they feel okay exposing themselves on reaching out to or replying to an email or clicking and commenting, then immediately acknowledging them or wrapping them into some way of sharing some value that your solution can provide for them without being salesy, but in a supportive way, understanding that, one of the things that's really important in building a story brand, your brand is not the hero in their story. They are the hero in their story. And again, when you're thinking about their internal struggle and how your solution fits into their life, your solution helps support them in their journey to their aspirational outcome or where they see themselves in the future. And so when they respond, reply, and you're able to quickly take advantage of the technology that exists today and respond to them and show up in a way, it's like it it just it just feels right. I don't know how many folks that yeah, I send an email asking a question, and when I get a quick reply, it's like kind of unusual. It seems like Steve, that's really obvious, but it's not common. It's not it's not our reality. And so to have technology designed in a strategic fashion that complements whatever the experience you're wanting to deliver, then it feels congruent. It feels safe. It feels like you get me and understand me. And again, we're taking advantage of technology, but we're not trying to exploit the, we're trying to use the technology to fit into the life of the human algorithm, instead of just focusing on all the technology algorithm.
So, what does that actually look like in terms of marketing? Are we talking about creatives? Are we
It
talking
can
about
be
the messaging, or how will we implement what you're
it
talking
can
about?
be as simple as having your meeting link ready to automate and reply to them. So, for example, in the LinkedIn process, you connect with them, you send a message, a follow-up message, and they respond. Well, how cool would be, why don't you use my calendar link here, and let's hop on a call and we'll discuss what that would look like. And to have that ready to go, then they get a confirmation, they get a reminder, before the meeting, that then their whole expectation of what you have to offer is different than just giving them a phone call. Sometimes a phone call works, but having a system that they want to, in the back of their mind, they wish they had a system similar to that, is huge. It's huge persuasion.
Stuff. So, the next thing after generating a higher velocity, speed to lead, as we like to talk about. Uh, so, what are some ways we can do that, like in terms of the automation?
So obviously workflows, and my slide here is obviously the folks that are listening. They're probably HubSpot users. They have a version of a workflow or automation, but thinking through the various scenarios, there's just ways to really stand out that feels more human, and but you're showing up on time, and in a what's in a cadence that feels good and respectful, but professionally persistent. There's this fine line between being pesky and persistent, but it's kind of cool if you have a little personality. You're talking to you're, they're feeling like you get them. Then there's a lot more tolerance that exists for the automation or the email. I recently I sent an email to someone, and she goes, "Well, how did you get my email?" And she'd been on my podcast, but I had sent her from a new email address from my new platform. And so, just to acknowledge that we had talked, and wanted to make sure that she was up to that. It was a it was a nice message that she sent back to me. I think I think the honest way to show up in using automation that gives us all these advantages is, again, if you're speaking to helping them, or supporting them on their journey to that outcome that they see in their mind, where your solution fits in their life, they I think it's unusual. I think it's a competitive advantage, and it's something that opens up a lot more opportunities than you normally um, would have available, just focusing on, okay, the email goes out here, or the blog post is going to post here, and then we send out these automated social media posts that click to this, and then make sure the call to actions on th- those things need to be in place. But the focus, again, just it's it sounds so simple, but I think it's so impactful, that if you're understanding where you're fitting in, your solution fits into that image they have in their lives, that when they're considering your solution, is huge. And I don't think many brands have it all together in that area.
So cool. Well, Steve, we're moving to the end of our time together here. So we've got a pretty good summary. If you want to kind of move to that next slide there, and we can run over that. A really
Right.
great way to get some quick wins is
Mhm.
definitely to make sure you've got that ICP lined up.
Yeah.
Go through and implement an account-based marketing or persona-based approach using automation to get that speed to lead as narrow as possible.
Mhm.
You need to use multiple outreaches and test and optimize your strategy. You've got a book out, I understand, as well, right? Tell us a little bit more about that, if you would.
So my book, I work with a lot of folks in my book. Yeah, most of these conversations the folks are focused on, and the conversation always starts at this doorstep of, I think we need to redo our website. But if you were to put that into the Chat GPT and ask it to translate it into the real language of what they're thinking, it's like, I believe that this needs to complement my overall strategy as a system. And so my book's called The Golden Toilet: Stop flushing your marketing budget into your website and build a system that grows your business. There's four things I really preach in there, that if you look at your system, which is a growth stack, it needs to be clear messaging baked into your marketing automation tool. It needs to live somewhere, baked into your sales automation, because great, we're doing marketing, but then we also have to have a sales process, and then strategic campaigns. You get these first things in order, then you run strategic campaigns into that system. And I think it's a huge advantage. And if you're thinking about it differently than just, I have a website over here, I have a CRM over here, we're doing some social media posting over there. If you can see how it fits together, it's a huge advantage. One other book that I would really recommend, it's called Marketing the Mind States by Will Leach. Most of us think that we approach a problem in the same state of mind that we got up in, but it's not true. Our states of mind change all day long. And if you understand where your solution is and what state of mind that the folks that are considering a solution are in, then you would tweak your content to really speak to that particular state of mind. And again, it's that human algorithm that we're focused on. But we ought to use the technology, but we just have to have the technology on the right priority.
So, could you share a couple times that you've seen a campaign maybe where the focus was not didn't have that human element that you keep returning to? You talk about needed to speak to the human algorithm. Can you flesh that out a little bit more for us, Steve?
Well, so we've had some examples recently, and again, it doesn't, where you're, what side of the fence you're on here. As you think about it, there's a particular beer brand that wasn't thinking about the folks that they had spent all this time to bond and see where their product was fitting into the majority of the folks that were consuming their product. And in an effort to 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 be in whatever what I'm trying to think of a way to make this palatable, but in an effort to try to please more people, they forgot where their product fits in with the rest of folks, and it became it, it, it became it was like there was this needle scratching on the record. There's a story of this father, and I don't know how much time we have left here, but there's a story of a father who was like, all these ads were coming to his house, and it was about baby products, and his daughter was living with him, and he was like offended that Target sent this uh, article, these things, and so he went and confronted the manager of that store, and he said, "Well, why are you sending this to my daughter? It seems like you're wanting her to get pregnant." And what the data that Target had knew that she was pregnant. But the point of this story is, there's a point in your journey where these brands that you've been anchored to, all of a sudden the table gets reset and you're happy, you're okay changing with this brand. You're moving this brand out of your identity and moving a replacement brand in. And I think that's one great example of where that audience that they had bonded with and spent a lot of time investing in, they brought in something that was like a needle scratching on a record. And therefore, a lot of their customers went and found a different solution that they identified and could see themselves holding in their hand when they're relaxing.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, awesome. All right. Well, Steve, I appreciate you being with us on the show today. We've had a nice time talking through some of the basics that we can definitely utilize to get some quick wins in our marketing and sales. How would people follow up if they want to learn more about what you're doing out there as a marketer?
Well, ROI Online is my website. And Bob, you were asking the Marketing the Mind State author. That's William Leach. He's a friend and a customer as well. But roionline.com is where you can reach out and connect. Obviously, I'm on LinkedIn, and you can search for me, Steve ROI Brown. My parents gave me a name that is the same name as I don't know. I haven't done a search, but I bet you there's thousands of Steve Browns out there. So I had to put some little way to create my brand and differentiate.
I like it. Steve ROI Brown, thanks so much for being a guest on the Evolve Sales Leader today.
Jonathan, thanks for having me. I'm enjoying it. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Well, thanks for our audience for being here today. We love having you. Bring your friends next time. We are during the summer break today. We're looking at ways to sharpen the old axe, get our skills up, leveled up for some new results. So we'll be right back here, same time, same station next week. Take advantage of that extra long weekend, and we'll see you at that point. Have a great rest of your afternoon and weekend, everybody. Thanks for being here.